information. So number one, there will be discussions about China helping the United States with Iran to tamp Iran down. That's number one. But in return, the Chinese are going to want something, and that will center around Taiwan. Not a handover or anything like that, but maybe the beginning of a discussion about Taiwan.
Do you like that trade?
Yeah, I think it's good for us. 2049 is the 100th anniversary of the evil Mao Zedong's takeover of China. And they being the Politburo, want the Chinese flag flying over that island nation. Now, whether that happens or not, who knows? It's a long way out. But there's room for discussion about a number of things with Taiwan. And the Chinese at this point are just trying to get into the room. Now, as far as America is concerned, what do you expect Donald Trump to say?
The truth.
He's not going to say, oh, yeah, I'm weak. I see the prices going up, so I'm going to sell out my original concept of denying Iran nukes.
That wasn't the original concept. The original concept was America first. The original concept was prices are everything and they have to come down. And I remember you pounding that mantra to great effect all through the campaign. And then as soon as he got elected, remember what the message was? Bringing prices down is hard. That was his original sell.
History.
Not Iran can't have a nuke. He never said that during the campaign. That wasn't a big thing. Now it is.
This is history. This evolved. So you're a president of the United States, Cuomo, and you have intel coming in from the CIA, the NSA, and Mossad that says these people, the Iranians, are very close to getting a nuclear weapon.
That wasn't the intelligence he got.
I think, yes, it was.
Well, we just had the U.S. intelligence agencies put out information that they were not weeks away from having a nuclear weapon, just like Grassi from the IAEA. Hegseth either made that up or got it wrong.
Okay. No, it's a Reuters report. That's what you were citing last week, which was totally phony.
Oh, really? How do you know?
The Wall Street Journal, because the Wall Street Journal citing the Institute for Science and International Security, whereas Reuters cited nothing, just anonymous sources. The headline was, U.S.-Israeli strikes set back Iran's ability to build nuclear weapon. The headline of Reuters that you jumped on was, Iran no further from nuclear weapon than before war. Reuters is not a legitimate news agency. It's a partisan news agency that hates Trump.
But the Wall Street Journal is a fair broker.
Sorry.
The Wall Street Journal, no, it's what you think it is. But the Wall Street Journal is a fair broker. And the American intelligence agencies have said nothing about this. So odd in the Trump era, Bill, don't you think, that something's said that's not true and he doesn't have them speak up and correct it? How do you explain that?
This really shows the clear difference between intelligence-based analysis and politically charged views of global conflicts. A more careful look at the Iran situation explains how modern intelligence agencies actually work. The International Atomic Energy Agency, also known as the IAEA, has repeatedly said that while Iran's uranium enrichment levels have risen sharply and moved close to weapons-grade territory, that alone does not mean the country has a nuclear weapon. Building an actual weapon takes many more steps, including warhead development, miniaturization, delivery system setup, and testing. Those stages are much more difficult and so far have not been confirmed by any public intelligence reports. That is why intelligence agencies draw a line between having the potential to build a nuclear weapon and being fully ready to deploy one, even though political narratives often mix the two together. This careful approach also matches how the Office of the Director of National Intelligence handles threat assessments. They almost never give exact timelines unless several intelligence sources fully agree, because past mistakes, especially the Iraq WMD disaster, proved how dangerous early certainty can become. Because of that, modern intelligence reports are intentionally cautious and focus more on probabilities instead of absolute predictions. The same kind of complexity appears in the discussion around China, where international relations experts often point out that global power deals are not as simple or transactional as some politicians make them sound. The United States and China are deeply tied together economically, with trade between them worth hundreds of billions every year, and both sides depend heavily on stable global supply chains. Issues like Taiwan are connected to decades of military strategy and foreign policy doctrine, not short-term political bargaining, which makes any simple trade-off idea unrealistic. In the end, the strongest argument comes from understanding how layered and complicated these global security decisions really are because they rely on intelligence analysis, historical lessons, and long-term strategic risk, not quick political wins or oversimplified deals.
Well, listen, the American intelligence agencies and Mossad, and Netanyahu confirmed it. I mean, I know you don't consider him a valid source, was that
when did I say
they were
that?
within weeks of getting enriched uranium, okay? So the
I agree with
Israelis
that.
said we can wipe them all out.
I agree with that.
So if you're
There's
a
just a
president,
difference between
then
having
if you're a-
weapons-grade uranium and having a weapon. That's all. It's not me making this up. It's called,
Okay.
it's called nuclear physics.
Okay, fine. So if you're a president and this is what you're presented with, and you're presented with a scenario where you can take out the top terrorist leadership of the country, most presidents, not all, would do that. Okay? So that is not something that's from outer space or a diversion of anything else. Now, the problem is there are unintended consequences, and that's inflation. That's angry voters because they don't like this. They don't know about what the danger is. They know about their wallets shrinking. And that's reality.
It is.
So President Trump is gambling that he can turn it around, all right, and that all the prices will come down quickly if he can negate the Iranian government. So he goes to China. He asks China for help. This is not going to be made public, of course, okay? China will say either yes or no. But it's in China's best interest because if you know anything about the country, what they value above all else is order. They don't want disorder. It's bad for business. They don't want Hormuz. They don't want any of this. And I understand that President Trump is going to offer China an alternative oil buy. So they'll be able to buy from the United States.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Rather than Iran.
That's a great idea.
Okay.
No question about that.
All of
Much
that-
better than the come build your manufacturing factories here. I hope that's not true.
I don't care about the factories, but there was a reason 16 CEOs went on this trip, and that is to negotiate the beginnings of a major trade deal with the United States. That's why they were on the plane. But anyway, what we're looking at here is another gamble by the biggest presidential gambler of all time, Donald Trump. If he wins and the Iranians do pull back and the economy does, explode in a positive way, that's going to mean a lot in the midterms. One more thing that I saw on News Nation last night, it was shocking.
The debate turns tense because it exposes two very different ways of looking at intelligence, diplomacy, and how presidents make decisions during global crises. A more balanced understanding of the Iran nuclear issue comes from the way intelligence agencies actually explain risk and uncertainty. The International Atomic Energy Agency, known as the IAEA, has consistently made it clear that enriched uranium alone does not mean a country has a nuclear weapon. It is only one step in a long and highly technical process. To turn that material into a functioning weapon, a country would still need advanced warhead engineering, reliable delivery systems, and successful testing, all of which are tracked separately by agencies such as the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. These intelligence organizations are usually very careful with their wording because history has already shown the dangers of overconfidence, especially after the Iraq WMD situation, where strong political claims created long-term strategic damage and hurt public trust. On top of that, the idea that China could simply help stabilize the Middle East through trade leverage is much more complicated than it sounds. China may be the world's largest crude oil importer, but its energy supply is spread across several countries, including Russia, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE, making it difficult to shift through simple political pressure or quick negotiations. Global energy markets also depend on long-term agreements, shipping networks, and international insurance systems, not fast diplomatic promises. Even the Strait of Hormuz, which carries close to 20% of global oil shipments, is controlled by complex maritime laws and military deterrence systems that cannot be reshaped overnight through one political deal. The bigger issue behind this argument reflects a common reality in foreign policy because presidents usually operate in situations where intelligence is based on probabilities, not guaranteed facts. That is why sweeping statements and fast predictions can be risky, since world events are shaped by many different countries, interests, and unpredictable factors, not just the decisions of one leader.
So this guy Moulton, the congressman from Massachusetts, comes on News Nation and he says, oh, we already had a deal. Barack Obama had a deal. We already had a nuke deal. We didn't do this. Barack Obama had negotiated a nuke deal and they weren't going to develop nukes. Well, if that were true, which it isn't, okay, why wouldn't the mullahs then agree to weapons inspections? If they don't have it, if they never did it, if they abided by what Obama wanted, why wouldn't they let you in to take a look? I mean, it was so, I'm sitting there going, are you crazy? And the answer is, of course,
Do you
yes.
hear a lot of people who are knowledgeable about the nature of the JCPOA, which, by the way, had a huge benefit over where we are right now? Is that right now we're alone with the regime's biggest enemy, which is the IDF. And then you had the P5+1 who had signed on to it that could enforce snap sanctions, leverage their relationships. So just on that, on the face of that one facet of it, it was far superior to where we are right now. But do you believe that all of the experts who say, well, if we had stayed in that, we wouldn't be in this situation right now because at least you had something, and they wouldn't have been able to enrich the uranium the way they did only after Trump walked out of the deal? Do you say they're all wrong?
Who's going to stop them from enriching? Weapons inspectors are not allowed in. So who's going to stop them?
But then why hadn't they enriched the uranium until after he walked out of the deal?
I don't know the timeline about enriching uranium. I know that they were doing it when these intel reports came into the president's desk. I talked to the president on Sunday, by the way. I'm not name dropping. I just want people to know I know what I'm talking about.
Well, you mean that you're talking to him. That doesn't mean that you have better handle of the facts just because you're talking to the president.
Okay, look.
I mean, come on.
Cuomo, I have to do my job, okay? And if you don't want to believe it, you don't have to believe it. I'm just reporting what is said and what makes sense. All right? Donald Trump is not a self-destructive man. He's not going to blow up the Republican Party and his own administration by doing something that's not necessary. There was no reason to do that. All right? So I am saying that it looks like there is a reason to do it. Now, whether he can get anything done with a genocidal regime like Iran, I don't know.
This exchange gets intense because it lands right in the middle of intelligence analysis, diplomatic history, and political messaging all at the same time. One of the biggest facts behind the argument is how the JCPOA, the 2015 Iran nuclear deal, was actually designed to work. Under the agreement, Iran accepted non-stop monitoring from the IAEA, including live surveillance at nuclear sites like Natanz and Fordo, while also agreeing to keep uranium enrichment levels capped at 3.67%. That level is nowhere near weapons-grade uranium, which usually requires enrichment close to 90%. The deal also limited Iran's low-enriched uranium stockpile to 300 kilograms and forced the country to shut down thousands of centrifuges. These restrictions were not based on trust alone, because international inspection teams regularly checked and verified compliance through ongoing monitoring. During the years the agreement stayed active, the IAEA released several reports confirming that Iran was following the rules.